I'm Jen Bowden, and I'm here today to talk to you about my internship experience at 7cups.com. To answer the first question, how did I find or arrange the internship? Well, I found the opportunity to do my internship at 7cups.com on a spreadsheet that was provided to me by the internship department at BYU, Idaho. Getting the internship approved wasn't the easiest, as 7cups.com wouldn't sign the form that was requested by BYU, Idaho. Once they stated that they couldn't sign it, I was able to proceed forward with BYU, Idaho in getting it approved, but it took a little back and forth. To answer the next question, what were my responsibilities in the internship? Well, when you become a listener at 7cups.com, your job is to be a listener to those who have reached out and are in a crisis situation. I'm also to complete 160 hours as required by BYU, Idaho. 7cups.com does require you to turn in a progress summary every 4 weeks, and they do not remind you about this, so it's something you need to do, and you'll be notified of that when you begin your internship. Just remember to follow up and do it, otherwise they cannot graduate you. When you do decide to do your internship with 7cups.com, you can choose one of 2 tracks. The first track is the community track, which is between 8 and 12 weeks. The other track is called the student track, and that ranges from 13 to 24 weeks, or approximately 3 to 6 months. For me, I was put on the community track because of how long my internship took to get approved, and I knew I would be at about 8 or 9 weeks in length, so that was my only option at that point. I want to take some time to talk to you a little bit about the requirements for the community track. 7cups requires you do have a minimum of 7 hours of being a listener per week. Another requirement is to have 40 referral clicks. A referral click is something that is tracked with your unique referral code. You can copy your referral code off of your site and then text it to friends or post it on social media. I personally found it most effective to send it to friends via text. When I posted it on social media, I didn't get very many clicks from that. Basically, what they're looking for is for people to just click on the link. They don't need to sign up with 7cups. They just need to simply discover it through your link. The next requirement is to complete peer trainings 1 through 6. And there's a tab to complete all different trainings. And they just want to make sure that you do complete 1 through 6 on what they call a peer training. Another requirement is something called a verified listener badge. To get a verified listener badge, you do have to apply for it, and then you have a mentor or supervisor log in and basically do a mock chat with you to see how you are treating other members. And they evaluate you, and then they send it off to a committee to evaluate it further, and if you pass, you get your verified listener badge. Another mandatory requirement is to complete 10 different trainings within the training tab at 7cups.com. These trainings can be all sorts of different topics. There's postpartum depression, there's student life, test taking, ADHD, drug addictions, all sorts of different topics that you can train on, and they would like you to complete 10 trainings, and that's in addition to those 6 peer trainings we spoke about earlier. The next thing that they want is for you to choose 5 different electives from the list below. I'm going to go through them one by one and sort of explain what they are. The first one is called a tiny chat, and a tiny chat is earned by completing 20 group chats in a listener support room. So that would be like completing 20 chats with your peers, other listeners. The Sparkler badge is earned by completing 20 chats in a member support room. So there may be a member room that is named disabilities or depression or drug addiction, and it's just a group chat instead of a one-on-one. It's very interesting how 7 Cups calculates these chats. Basically, 25 messages sent through you equals 1 group chat. So essentially, you would have to send 500 messages in order to equal those 20 group chats we spoke about. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to track it. When you click on your profile, you will be able to see how many chats you are, but sometimes it seems mysterious. There is a little math there to figure how many you're getting. Another option is to have an elective by obtaining a leadership badge. And a leadership badge, there's a whole list of different options you can go through, and once you become a listener, you can choose which one you'd like. Another elective to choose from is called a sub-community specific role. So perhaps you could be in charge of the depression group or the student life group. Different roles you can ask to be in charge of. Me personally, I opted for the following 5 electives. I opted to achieve what they call Growth Path 100 or above. I opted for the elective called 25 forum posts, which is essentially just 25 messages sent by me in a group forum, and I achieved that in one of the member support rooms. The other one I chose was something called a Peer Pro badge, and I got that by completing peer trainings 1 through 12. So not just the 1 through 6, I went all the way 1 through 12, and I got the Peer Pro badge. The other elective I chose was called Listener Level 3, and in completing my internship, I'm now a Listener Level 5, and you can go up to a Listener Level 10, I believe, and that would just take quite a few more hours. And then the other option I chose was to complete an additional 10 training guides, and that was in addition to the 6 peer trainings that were mandatory, and in addition to the other 6 peer trainings that I got when I achieved the Peer Pro badge. So it's kind of confusing when you go look at everything. Take some time to really try to understand what it was. The other thing to realize is you are not getting any hours for any of these extra things you have to do. And I was not quite sure how all that worked when I first began, but any of these trainings you are doing on your own time, so do keep that in mind, and I would advise you to get it done early. Alright, let's talk about the student track. So as you can see here, the student track looks like it has much less requirements than the community track, but that is because they are actually requiring more of the mandatory items that were in the community track. You still have your same 7 hours of listening per week minimum, but instead of those 40 hours or the 40 referral clicks that you had in the community track, you now have 80. And if you remember the peer trainings from community track, you just needed to complete 1 through 6, but on the student track here, you do 1 through 12. They still require you to get the verified listener badge, and just to remind you, that's when a supervisor signs in and you do a mock chat with them so that they can evaluate you and give you some constructive feedback on where you're lacking and where you can improve. And then they send it off to another board to review and come back and let you know whether or not you got the verified listener badge. I did receive mine first time out, but they told me that many do not, so don't be discouraged. Just take that constructive feedback, work on where you lacked, and go forward to learn from those mistakes. The next thing is to be on the student track. You are to complete every training guide. There are many. I would venture to say over 50 training guides. The next thing you can see, both the Tiny Chat, which is the chats that you have with other listeners, and the Sparkler badge, which is the chats you have with other members, those are both required. So essentially you are sending 500 messages in the group chat for listeners and 500 messages in the group chat for members. Remember, none of these requirements are tracked during your hour time, which means you are doing these on your own. The next question I want to go over is, how did you benefit from the site you served at? Well, for me, I benefited from the site I served at because it was done on my time frame and it was online. Right now, we're in the middle of COVID-19, and I didn't want to have to go to a location and risk exposing myself to the virus. I found the flexibility of doing my internship online with 7 Cups to be extremely valuable. All right, the next question is, how did you benefit personally from the experience? Well, I personally benefited from my internship at 7 Cups by having the opportunity to utilize the skills I've learned during my time at BYU, Idaho in so many different situations. In finishing my degree, I had no intention of continuing in this field in grad school, but after going through my internship, I don't think that's the case. I truly enjoyed the feeling of being able to be there for those that came to me that were in need. All right, the next question is, describe one important connection between your coursework and what you experienced during your internship. Well, one connection between my coursework and what I experienced during my internship is how important family connection really is. So many people feel alone, unheard, and unsupported. Knowing how important a high-quality life is to an individual helped me to not only understand the disconnection many were experiencing, but helped me to probe them with the questions that made them realize this on their own so that they could go back and try to rectify the situation. The next question is, would you recommend this site or experience to other students? I would definitely recommend 7 Cups to other students as a very valuable intern experience. The next question is, if yes, whom should the students contact to arrange an internship at the site? Well, if you'd like to arrange an internship with 7 Cups, these are the steps to take. First, go to 7cups.com, scroll to the very bottom of the website. Under the tab Getting Started, click Volunteer as a Listener and create a listener account. You need to do some listener training, which at the time of my internship was 2 one-on-one chats. That's chats with members and guests done in private messages shown on your profile, as well as 2 member group support chats completed in rooms like depression support. Once you're done, you're going to go ahead and email Hope. Her email address is laiba@7cups.com. Once you're accepted as an intern with 7cups.com, you're put on a 2-week trial. You'll receive an email stating such, as well as your requirements for your internship. One of the things you need to have is 50 cheers. These are tracked under your profile tab, so you'll be able to see those, and you get them just by chatting. Another thing you'll need to accomplish is finishing 1 training guide. Super easy. Click under the Training and Certifications tab and complete one of the training guides. You can even make it one of the required ones, for instance, the peer training guides 1 through 6 or 1 through 12. Any one you want to choose will count here. Another requirement is to complete what they call the listener oath. This was a little tricky for me to find, and if you have any questions at all during your journey, you can click on 7 Cups Internship and go to one of the chat rooms that deals with the frequently asked questions for interns. But with the internship listener oath, it was actually one of these discussion chats. You had to copy and paste a listener oath with your name on it. And as I said, it was a little tricky, so don't hesitate to reach out to a mentor when you're in the program to find out where it is, because that does need to be completed right away. The next thing is earning what they call a Hang 10 badge, and you do that by completing 10 steps on your progress path. Again, this is automatically done when you're doing your chats, so it's not very hard to achieve. And the final thing for your 2-week trial is to get the open door badge, and you get that by completing 5 one-on-one chats. One of the things I highly recommend doing is to make a checklist to be sure to stay on top of all of the requirements. You should aim to have all your requirements done before you submit your first 4-week summary so that you can spend the rest of your time as an intern focusing on completing your hours. I found what they provided me, which was a Google Doc with some broken hyperlinks at the beginning of my 2-week trial as an intern, not to be a very easy way to track the requirements that I was doing. So I made my own checklist, and I would suggest you do the same just so you don't miss anything. When it came time for me to submit my first 4-week summary, I had probably half of my requirements done, and the feedback was, although I was doing well, I should really have had them done. So I'm taking that and passing it on to you as some advice to follow. I think that's about it. Just sit back, relax, enjoy your internship.